This is Papaws Garden Supply video number 2. And what we're going to talk about today is how to propagate multiple types of small seeds. One of the things that I did when I put my propagation bundle together on my website was, after 4 years of experience, coming together with something that was going to not only work but provide multiple attempts at growing seeds up to 128 plants at a time. So I want to review that real quickly. First of all, in the 11-pack bundle, I have this 1201 cell sheet. There are actually 12 of these, and that is to start multiple seeds and possibly multiple varieties. Then, when the plants come up, we will have 4 of these 804 cells, so there's 32 in an entire tray. That is going to produce the plants that we're going to use to transplant outside. Additionally, either one of these cells could be used to put large seeds like melons, cantaloupe, different types of large seeded plants, cucumbers, that type of thing. So it's very, very versatile. In addition, I went and in the combo have 5 of these. That way you have 1 for the 1201 cells to start the small seeds, and then another 4 trays for the 804s. So essentially you can start with a 1201, get the little plants up about 1 inch, and then transplant up to 128 plants under 3 shop lights. And of course, last in that combo pack is this clear dome. That's a humidity dome that we use on this 1201 tray so that those little seedlings all come up in those 12 cells. And once they start to break the soilless mix, we take this dome off. Now, let's go over here real quickly before we start seeding, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when it comes to the shop lights. Over here, I've got several plants started, and what I have is I just have a basic tray, or a shelf here, and I have 3 shop lights in a row, and I have 4 of these trays that are perpendicular. Now, these plants are coming along pretty good, and believe it or not, they've only been transplanted about 3 weeks. In another another 2 weeks, they'll be big enough that I'm going to take them outside during the day, let them acclimate to the temperature conditions, and then by the end of March, I'm going to plant. What's interesting is, and this is with the broccoli, cabbage, and the beets. You know, I started these beets because I have found that you can transplant a beet without injuring it if you're careful, and it actually gives you a better start in variable weather conditions. I have broccoli, I have collard greens, which you don't normally think of as being transplanted, but again, that allows you to transplant these and space them perfectly with no weeds around them. You can mulch, and they grow quite well. I've got over here both Murdoch and Caitlin cabbage. Notice that I put these sheets on top, or attached to each tray, to tell me exactly what I have. And I put front and back to make sure I know what's what, because you will forget. Down here, I've got my onions. These onions have been growing for approximately 6 weeks now. They're going to need another haircut pretty soon. They're doing quite well. Again, I will probably not put those out for at least another 6 weeks, so it'll be about 12 weeks before they're big enough to really go out. Those are a very, very long time to be under lights, but that's what they have to do. Got some more broccoli and cabbage. But here's another one that I start that most people don't, and that's kohlrabi. You know, a lot of people consider it looks like a spaceship when it grows because it's got multiple stems coming out. It's a very mild kind of a turnipy, celery type plant. Fantastic eating quality in the spring and in the fall. And I'll seed these in trays, so again, when I transplant them, I have them perfectly spaced. So let's go over here and start the small seeds. And right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to start, I've already done the rest of these. I am going to start the tomatoes and peppers. Yeah, now look at what I've written here. This is why you need to write down all the different things going into the 1201 cells, because there's just, you know, I've got German strawberries, I've got Heat Master tomatoes, I've got, you know, the red Peter peppers and the just several varieties, cayenne peppers, Jupiter bells, all these different varieties of plants, and you're not going to know where they're all at a week from now. So you want to write them down, put front and back. You know exactly what you got. So let's start. We want to do the soilless mix, which is a peat moss, perlite, and vermiculite. It is sterile, which is important, and these cells and trays and domes are sterile. So that means that there's not going to be, there's a very good possibility that there's not going to be any disease pressure on these, and that's what we want. Never use garden soil. Never use potting soil, because they're full of fungi and bacteria and viruses that will kill the young seedlings as they start to come up. Now, when a plant is big, they can be transplanted in that. But when they're little bitty and they're just first growing, that's when they die. So we're putting this in and just loosely filling it like that. Okay. Now, we'll put this in here. I use my 1201 packing block. This is another item we sell on our website. And it just allows for good compaction of that soilless mix. Now, I'm going to spray this solution of, there's a few drops of mild liquid soap, dish soap, in with this water. Now, I had a person on Facebook ask, why in the world would you put soap in with this water? And the answer to that question is really simple. The soilless mix actually has a little bit of that soap in it, because peat moss does not like to absorb water at all. So when you put the soap in that water, just again a few drops, it makes the water wetter. It essentially allows the water to penetrate that peat moss and make it stay wet, and it'll stay wet right around that little seedling, and that helps it germinate faster. So I've wetted this. Of course, I've done all these others already, and I've got here a pack of the red German strawberries, tomatoes, and if you take a look down here, I've got front and German strawberry tomatoes, so I know exactly what I'm planting. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these little seeds and scatter them just as best I can, and they will come up fairly thick. You can plant at least 30 or more, maybe 40 of these in a particular flat if you want to. Like for me, I'm going to do 2 of these, or have done one already. I'm going to do 2 of these because I'm going to have multiple flats of German red strawberry tomatoes, because not only do I like them, but I have a lot of other people that do too. So we put these in here, take a little bit of loose soil, soilless mix, add that, shake it, just do the clumps, okay? All right, going to pack it down one more time, like so. Spray a little bit more of this light water with soap in it. Again, that's going to allow for that peat moss to stay wet. Now I'm going to put my dome over the top, like so. And then we're going to take this over here And we're going to put this underneath these lights. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is this distance of these lights. When I had this dome here and these lights are going, I don't really care what the height is because the plants are not up yet. But once the little plants start to come up through the soil, there's two things we want to do. Take the dome off and then drop these lights down to within an inch of the plants. It's really important because these little plants need light intensity, just like sunlight. I use daylight bulbs. I have used LEDs. I really like the other ones better. And you want to also pay attention to the amount of daylight or light they get. I have a timer on a switch, and that timer is set at 12 hours. The reason for it being set on 12 hours is because these onions are long day onions. They cannot stand more than 12 hours of light. If they get more than 12 hours of light, they will not grow vegetatively. They will grow in a bulb, and then they won't produce anything. So I'm keeping everything at 12 hours because all the cabbage and broccoli and kohlrabi and everything else that I've got going can stand 12 hours of light. And by the time I get these done, the plants that need more light, I'll be growing them. So I've got this here. When that comes up, take the dome off, drop it down to 1 inch, keep the timer on so that we have an exact amount of light. And then when these plants get big enough, then I will take them out and harden them off. One last thing as far as fertilizing. Onions need a lot of nitrogen fertilizer. I use a teaspoon of Miracle Grow, and I use another nitrogen fertilizer for the onions because they really thrive on nitrogen. The broccoli and beets and the rest of this, a little bit of Miracle Grow or other type of water soluble. Again, a teaspoon in a gallon's plenty. When I get, I will basically put water in the bottom of these trays. Like this one, I'll put almost half full when I start them. And then as these start to grow, I will just add water every 2 or 3 days, not to get them too wet. And that's pretty much all we're going to do. And again, you know, I've spent very, very little money, and these trays and these cells, if they're taken care of and you don't tear them up, they can be rinsed and cleaned, sanitized again with Purex 10% bleach solution, and reused over and over and over. Thank you very much for watching my video, and please check out Papaws Garden Supply or papawsgarden.com.